Hey everybody, this is the Patriot Torch coming for episode 9 with me, Marco Amaya, and Ethan Foster. And we wanted to get into a very important subject of socialism and communism. And people have a misconception that these are different things that are unrelated, and what does each of them mean? So I want to begin by asking you, what do you think the differences between socialism and communism is?
Well, I think socialism ultimately leads to communism. I can't name a single socialist state that has not failed.
Yeah, and neither can I. But of course, people don't realize that that's the original, really what socialism is. It's a transition from taking the free market and changing it into a market that's controlled by the government only. So socialism is that transition point from being a totally free market economy which produces wealth and business and products and good quality products and good prices to a monopoly control of everything, and which is eventually communism, which is where government literally controls everything. And socialism is simply the baby steps towards that end goal. So, I mean, people don't realize that, and so the young people nowadays, they're not educated that way. So then they think they're fighting for a cause, for fighting for people's rights when they support socialism, because they're saying healthcare is a right. Now, how in the world is healthcare a right? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think it's the government's responsibility to provide anybody with healthcare. And with that being said, when the democratic socialists in our country today point at socialism, they point across the pond at the Nordic countries and say, this is what we want socialism in our country to be. And they want socialism, but what they don't understand is the Nordic countries are not socialist countries.
Right.
They are capitalist countries
Exactly.
they redistribute wealth from the top down. They have certain economic socialist policies, which is why their countries have not fallen. And they also have a vastly less population. They have much less population density than the United States does.
Right, and to begin with, the success that those Nordic countries have, like Denmark and Switzerland and all these places, they're successful because they still allow the free market to exist, which is where all the wealth comes from, and all their socialist leftist programs are paid for by what? The wealth of the free market. It's the state isn't creating the success. The state is taking people's wealth and success and then using it to pay for their programs.
Right, they redistribute it. They have an enormous welfare state, which so do we. A lot of people don't understand 66% of our budget goes to social services in the United States, which I think is a lot too much. I honestly believe we should cut the welfare budget and redistribute some of that money into security for schools. Like armed guards, for instance, would be a great way to invest in school security.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
totally
one
agree.
that believes the Department of Education should exist anyway. But if you want to talk about securing and protecting the children at high schools, I do believe putting armed guards at schools would be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this whole idea that you can take away guns from people and that somehow the kids are going to be safe. Well, people get guns illegally. So you need someone there regardless that has to protect the kids with a gun.
Right. Well,
Right?
Also, look at a gun-free zone, and it only creates more opportunity for the criminal. And I'm also in favor of concealed carry on campuses for one specific reason. If the criminal knows that there could possibly be citizens, teachers, or students with concealed carry, I mean college campuses, not high school campuses. If a criminal knows that there's a possibility of concealed carry on college campuses, there is a much lower possibility that he's going to walk in there with a firearm.
Yeah, why would he go to a place that he knows there's going to be someone fighting back? Criminals are weak. I mean, they want to go somewhere where people are sitting ducks, as they say, just totally unaware of...
They're coyotes. They're coyotes. They strike when they know they can win. They are. They remind me of like a pack of coyotes. They'll attack something that they know they can kill.
Right, exactly. It doesn't make sense why they would all of a sudden be respecting laws, like, oh, the guns aren't allowed here. Oh, I'm going to respect the law. I'm a criminal. That's not, they don't do that. They definitely disrespect the laws. They don't care about it. They're going to go after these innocent children just because they can. And they're also psychotic people. A lot of them are on pharmaceutical drugs. They're out of their minds. But that's what I'm saying. Like you said, armed guards. We need to have something protecting the people. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't make sense why people can't agree on such a simple thing. Instead of saying, let's take away the guns and restrict guns. Well, okay.
Well, banning guns creates more opportunities for criminals, as to where you allow teachers to conceal carry in classrooms. Now they have more of an opportunity to defend themselves. So my overall statement is this. A gun in the hands of a proper person is to kill the bad guy with a gun. That is what they're for. You know me, I do not hunt. I'm more interested in taking care of a trespasser or somebody that breaks into my house that is not supposed to be there. And the same concept should be applied with teachers and students in school.
Right, exactly. And the way that this ties into socialism is because, guess what? It's always the socialists that are promoting gun control and banning guns. And they think this is 2 different subjects. No, they're related. The socialists, just look at Nazi Germany. They were the National Socialist German Workers' Party. They were actual socialists. People have the left has kind of changed that over time to make people think it's about fascism. No, they're socialists. And they restricted guns.
Well, generally, most leftists are fascist. But right, yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Right,
but
it's basically fascism, socialism. It's all about getting the government to control everything. And then what it is when it related to the Second Amendment, what is a dream of a dictatorship? A dream of a dictatorship is to make sure that people are disarmed so that they can't physically resist tyranny at any point in time. If they decide to revolt, they can't.
Right, which, let me put this thought out there for you. I honestly believe leftists love guns more than conservatives do. They just love guns in the aspect of they want the guns stripped from the people and they want the government to have all the guns and point those guns at conservatives. That's what they want.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you see the picture that I'm painting? They don't want us to have guns. They want the government only to be the ones that have guns, to point at us because we disagree with them. At the end of the day, someone has a gun.
Right, someone's always going to have a gun. And so if someone's always going to have a gun, then we should have a gun. Because then we need to protect ourselves. So it's like, it's always, you're right, like they want the government to control everything. And I don't understand this mentality where you're wanting to fight for your rights, but you're going to give all your rights to the government so the government can protect you. They're essentially trading freedom for this idea of protection. But freedom is protection. We need the freedom to have a gun, the freedom of free speech. And these are the things that protect us, not the government.
Well, you want to talk about gender equality. I don't think anything has made genders more equal than the Second Amendment. A woman conceals carry. I mean, how much freedom does she have to walk down a dark alley? You know.
Yeah, exactly. A woman is obviously way more, on average, physically weaker than a man, and that's not to be sexist. That's just a fact. Generally, a woman needs to have a gun in order to counterbalance the disadvantage she has physically with a lot of men in this country.
Right. I don't disagree. I purchased a firearm for my wife, and my wife is taking Muay Thai. She loves to box, loves to fight. But at the end of the day, I would much rather have her step back, pull a pistol out of her purse, and shoot someone in the leg than have to worry about the worst happening.
Right, exactly. And at the very least, have a knife or pepper spray, because this idea that you don't need to protect yourself makes no sense. You have to have something.
Right, I do. I think most leftists, they have this, well, at least the hippies are, the centralized hippies of the leftist party. They have this idea that we can all stand in a circle around a burning fire, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya, but it's not the case, really. It's not true.
Yeah.
You look at the couple that went on a bike ride in a country in the Middle East to prove that people are people and that you can just take a stroll anywhere without anything bad happening, and they were brutally stabbed to death by radical Islamic terrorists.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like, it's about, this idea that if we just give peace a chance, as they say, yes, I want love and peace and happiness and stuff like that. It's very important, but we can't be so blind to realize that not everybody thinks like that. There's obviously people that are criminals that don't like you, that don't see you as an equal person, that they just want to kill you. And of course, throughout the world, it's even more common than it is here in America. But even in America, it's not about, because they want to change it into, oh, you need a gun because if you're a black person, you're going to be killed by a white person. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about criminals.
Well, they point at the police more.
They want to say.
You can thank Barack Obama for that. Yeah. Barack Obama.
But of course, there's black people killing other black people way more often. There's white cops being killed by black people. So it's everything. It's not about the race at all. It's really just you need to protect yourself against crazy lunatics. It's just that simple.
Well, I'd like to redirect the conversation to China. And I know there was an uproar in the media recently about Trump implementing tariffs on China. And honestly, we spoke about it briefly before we came on set. I do not mind Trump's tariffs. One, because the United States is China's biggest customer. You don't pick a fight with your biggest customer. China is not the United States' biggest customer. And also, you look at the country of China. They are a communist, centralized dictatorship. Why would we be nice to them? The people there are not free. The United States, we are a constitutional republic. We believe in democracy. And right. China does not have that. We thought years ago, decades ago, that if their trade became free, their people would become free. And that has not been the case.
Yeah, because, the Chinese communists, the Communist Party running it, they're only there from themselves, obviously. And that's why the people of China that live in a communist country, they're totally in a tyranny where they can't even look up certain historical events on their internet. It's just everything's censored. They can't even look up the Tiananmen Square rebellion.
Korea's the same way.
They can't look up anything.
Totally censored.
Totally censored. And then this Chinese government, now we have to feel bad that we want to raise tariffs to make it more equal and have good trade that benefits us. It doesn't make sense that how that's supposed to be bad when we have to protect our economy first. It's not about protecting
If we want to talk about media censorship, we have it here too, extraordinarily bad. Even just before we started the show, I looked up that picture on my phone. I was looking for the symbol of the Republican Party, the elephant.
Yeah.
The first thing that popped up when I typed that in Google was the donkey, the symbol of the Democratic Party. If you go on YouTube right now and you type in Fox News, the first thing that's going to pop up is something for CNN. If I go on YouTube right now and I type in the Ben Shapiro show, the first thing that's going to pop up is BBC, Ben Shapiro humiliated in whatever interview he was on BBC with. They will always put something that promotes the leftist ideology first.
Of course, absolutely. Google does it, YouTube does it.
Well, it's
even worse.
It's despicable.
It's even worse. Not only do they rig the results, sometimes they just completely delete people. So, obviously, Alex Jones. He used to be coming up all over the place. He's deleted. You can't even search for him. Now all they have is videos criticizing him. That's all they have. So it's obviously they're totally rigged. And Google, people don't realize that's like the mothership. These are the guys running YouTube and running the whole show behind the scenes because they're
radical leftist socialists.
They're leftists run by leftist socialists that want to ban people for their free speech, including myself. Was recently banned from Facebook for 3 days just for my view.
Promoting the truth about radical Islamic terrorism.
Yeah, just to saying facts about radical Islamic terrorism. They banned me for 3 days. I'm not even a well-known person. They're just doing it everywhere.
You know what's interesting to me is you look at radical Islamic terrorists. They murder anyone that promotes or admits to homosexuality. They kill. They suppress women's rights, and yet the left protects radical Islam.
It's a contradiction.
Why?
Why would you do that? Women are completely oppressed in the Islamic religion. If you're a real Islamic person that follows the Quran, I'm not talking about moderates that don't follow the Quran. I'm talking about the real Muslims that follow the Quran. They're telling women that they're second-class citizens. They're subhuman. They don't have the same rights. If they get raped, they have to get 4 men. Witnesses in order to be able to prove that they were raped because the way they count the votes is a woman is a half a vote compared to a man in their official religion and Sharia law. So it's just absolutely degrading.
Right. These countries are a complete disaster.
Yeah.
They're a complete disaster.
And of course, with when you have let communism continue in our country and growing through these social media companies, they're eventually going to get to the point where you can only say this view, a very narrow view, and if you stray from that political view that they want you to have, they'll ban you, they'll restrict you like they're already doing.
It's fascism at its finest.
Right, and it continues and continues until it gets to the point where you have China, where you can't even look up historical events. You can't even find it. And actually, I was reading this article, I think it was on Zero Hedge. They were saying how sometimes the people that are protesting against the government, in order for them to form a protest and organize one, they have to use code words on their social media sites when they communicate with people so that they can get people to join in the movement. They can't say directly, oh, let's go and have a rally about this or that, because if the government sees them, they get arrested. So they have to use code words. That's what we're getting to, especially now, banning me for criticizing Islam compared to Christianity. Now I have to use code words to try to criticize it. It's like, wow.
I still can't believe it's amazing that leftists protect radical Islamic terrorists, even though they spite homosexuality and murder homosexuals and suppress women's rights. It really, the only thing that they have in common with leftists is that they hate us. I honestly believe. I mean, I can't put it into words how mind-boggling it is to me that they protect these people.
Well, I think the common enemy is, look, the leftists, they're like, oh, we hate conservative Christians. You know, it's like the Islamic, I guess the radical Islamists are the same because they don't like Christians.
They hold an utter disdain for Judaism, too. The same way Rashida Tlaib was saying that Israel doesn't have a right to exist. I mean, that's just blatant anti-Semitism because she's Palestinian, and they believe that land belongs to Palestine, and it doesn't.
Right.
So I think it's anti-Semitic to say that the only Jewish state in the world doesn't have a right to exist. It's anti-Semitic.
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea that, oh, let's just ban and get rid of everyone that doesn't believe what we believe in. It's like the same radical Islam has the same tendency that the leftist does. Like, you know, they're both saying we want to censor conservatives. The leftists want to say we're censoring conservatives. You know, it's okay to do that. It's okay to ban their speech. We can keep ours. It's like the radical Islamic people, which are like, oh yeah, attack all the non-believers and you know, go at war to people that aren't believing in Islam, which is what it says in the Quran. So I guess that might be why they're allied to some extent. But it's still mind-boggling because obviously there's contradictions like homosexuality that they're against, that Islam is against.
Right.
So
just with everything that they do, it's just strange that the leftists point to us and say that we're the ones that are intolerant. I've been wanting to get to the subject of gay marriage with you because I am a practicing Catholic. I disagree with gay marriage, but I also believe it's not the government's responsibility to say who can and cannot marry. It's up to the religious institution. Marriage is biblical. And that's what I wanted to gather your thoughts on it because I cannot support any promotion of gay marriage as a practicing Catholic. I cannot. I am not dehumanizing anybody. But the Bible is pretty clear about it.
Right. I personally, to begin with, to be fair, you know, gay people, they can get married. It's just not something that I think, it doesn't, let's say I restrict marriage of gay people getting married, it doesn't stop them from living together and loving each other. So I'm not going to see any point in restricting a gay marriage. But personally, I don't see it as a real marriage because
I agree 100% because God does not recognize gay marriage. As a practicing Catholic, I can honestly say I'm not dehumanizing anybody. I believe everybody has the right to do as they please, but it is up to the religious institution to say what is or is not allowed. I don't think that it's the government's job.
Yeah, the government can't get involved and say you can't get married to this person and you can't get married to that, because then it doesn't change anything because they're still going to live together. Like I said,
I think they should be entitled to the same tax benefits as married couples. I just think they should call it something else, if you know, at the least. But
it's an interesting topic because, like, at the same time, you know, it's not. To me, a real marriage has to be between a man and a woman because that's what produces children.
Right.
It's nature. Whereas man and man is not nature. That doesn't produce children. You'd have to adopt. And that can cause also, it's been debated that it can cause mental issues for the children not having only one gender of parents. But
I agree. I mean, everybody deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And I holster the same statement for transgenderism, which I believe is a mental illness. It used to be described as gender dysphoria back in the day. And I'm not dehumanizing anybody. I am just saying you are not the sex of which you claim to be.
Right, it's a mental issue, and it doesn't mean that we're trying to degrade you when we say that. We're saying we care about you. This is an issue. We need to help you because, if you have 40 to 46% of transgender,
the suicide rate is 46%.
How is that not a mental issue?
Well, okay, so it asserts the idea that gender and sex are malleable, and that is not true. And now you want me to pretend. And I'm sorry, no. I refuse to demonize and I refuse to dehumanize anybody. Everybody deserves to be happy and deserves respect. But I should not have to throw out the entire history of basic human biology for you. I'm sorry. And then they point out, well, you can change your sex legally. Well, correct, but lots of things have been permitted in the past legally that are incorrect biologically. For instance, sterilization of the mentally ill took place in the past. 1927, Skinner versus Oklahoma. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote the decision. You hear a lot of Ben Shapiro in my statements, but it's true. It is. It's true, and I honestly believe when we look at the arguments of abortion, we're going to be looking back 80, 90 years from now as a society, probably a lot of the same direction as people look at lobotomies. It was heinous and evil, and I know we said we weren't going to get on abortion today, but Roe v. Wade was probably one of the biggest mistakes ever made by the United States government.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Roe versus Wade caused a lot of millions and millions upon millions of deaths for babies. And I can't live, thinking that that's normal. That's not normal. That's a huge issue. Those are innocent babies that could have existed, but because people decided it was their convenience to get rid of the baby, now that person's dead. And of course, like what I was saying earlier, actually before we were filming, is that there's this argument by a lot of leftists that are saying, oh, life is hard, so you can justify killing that kid so they don't have to live a hard life. And I was saying, well, that means you can justify killing every single person that was ever born because life is hard. Right. So I don't understand their mentality behind that.
They use the financial excuse, which just because you're a burden on somebody does not give them the right to kill you. And
exactly.
Under no circumstance should the slaughter and dismemberment of a child in the womb be permitted. All human life is a precious gift from God that should be preserved at all cost.
Yeah, there's this. I remember this guy. He was like a doctor. He was in. It's a video. I forgot what his name was, but he was showing how he used to be an abortion doctor, and he brought the tool in. It's like a little clasp where he's like, "Yep, this is what you use to abort children." And what we would do is we'd stick it in that in the womb, and we would grab whatever you can, but you can't really see what you're doing. You just have to grab something and pull it, and then you pull a leg out, you pull an arm out. And sometimes you'll pull the head out, and if when you got the head, you could feel it because it was kind of like a big chunk. And if you would squeeze
it was soft, yeah. The head would explode, and they'd have to scrape the brains out.
And then they're saying, when you squeeze it really hard and you see like white gunk coming out, that means those are the brains of the children. And so he did like 1,200 abortions or something, and eventually, it's a long story short, he got sick of it, and he realized that there's something massively wrong for this to be going on.
Right, and I think in the future, decades in the future, we're going to be looking back at this knowing that we were on the right side of history. Because when you look at leftists in the argument that they make, it almost makes me want to ask them, do you even understand that you're arguing against a child's right to life? And I disagree. I'm sorry. I didn't want to get on the topic of abortion today, but it should. It should be thrown in the faces of Democrats over and over and over again. I know, Louisiana was banned in abortion. Louisiana banned abortion the past week, and it was a Democratic governor that signed the bill into law. So I'd like to think maybe 5% of Democrats are pro-life, as to maybe 5% of conservatives are pro-choice, anti-lifers. I have met them. They're out there. So it's hard for me to honestly admit, but there was a Democrat that shined this past week.
Oh yeah, you sent me that article.
Right, yeah. Governor of Louisiana.
I definitely want to give that guy credit because he didn't bow down to political pressure.
I thanked him on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I like that because it also provides unity in this country, because we need to unite over basic, simple things. Right to life, that should not be a partisan issue. That's in the Constitution, it's in the 5th Amendment, it's in the 14th Amendment. You have the right to life. No one can take away that, besides, I guess, in due process of law, that you can take away the right to life, but like with other cases. But most of the time...
Well, I agree with capital punishment, because a person that is convicted of murdering another person should be killed. An innocent child in the womb that has not killed another person should not be killed.
Yes, I do think that, although with the death penalty, I'm more leaning towards not having capital punishment, just because there have been hundreds of cases of people being wrongfully accused,
convicted.
Which I couldn't imagine being that person and then saying I still believe in it. It just wouldn't work. It has to be more accurate. Something has to change there, but...
It's a debate for another time.
Yeah, it's a debate for another time.
It's hard for me. It depends on as to which evidence were they convicted on. If they're convicted on DNA evidence, I'd say, yeah, kill them. But I'm also the same person, and like I said, my ideas are not law at the moment. But if a rapist is convicted of rape by DNA evidence, he should be castrated or killed. I agree with that. I'm sure there are several leftists out there that would also agree with that. It is heinous and disgusting, but
yeah, I mean, I do believe in punishment and going to jail, but at the same time, it's important as a Christian. I also feel like it's important to forgive your enemies and also give them the chance to be saved and repent. Because if we're playing the role of God all the time and killing people, I don't think that's really our job, is to kill people, but we can put them in jail for the rest of their life. I just personally, as a Christian, I still don't see the necessity of killing them versus letting them go to jail for the rest of their life so that they can repent and have a chance to be saved.
So your ideology is, it's not going to bring back the person that was murdered anyway.
Right, exactly. And also, in order for us to... I do want people, because Jesus, said to love your enemies, and it's important that he also loved sinners, and he wanted them to come back to God too. And
he forgave the men that crucified him.
Right, he forgave them. So it's important for us to remember that these people can be saved. They can be saved.
That's a powerful statement right there, Marco.
Yeah, so I'm glad we got that, and connecting it to communism and socialism once again. I wanted to, show people, look, abortion, because it is related. Abortion has caused millions of deaths, multi-millions, probably up to about 60 million at this point since Roe versus Wade, I think, throughout the world, globally. Now, communism and socialism, also in the last century, caused over 100 million deaths.
I'd like to look at the numbers on that myself. I thought it'd be higher, but...
Yeah, it could be. These are estimated. What I'm saying is estimated out of comparing different things. People agree that it's probably around 100 million deaths total for communism and what it's done throughout different regimes. But interestingly enough, these are coming from the leftist ideology, both. And so, the whole idea is, if something's promoting this much death, there's got to be something wrong with it. We have to promote life. It's always the conservative folks that are promoting life, promoting freedom, promoting limited government, which we need to get into. Why is it important to have limited government? So that there isn't a monopoly of the government controlling everything and saying healthcare is a right. Well, you could say food is a right that you can make the government handle, but then what happens is that if there's a monopoly controlling food too, prices skyrocket.
Defense against tyranny.
And so we were talking about communism and socialism in our society and what it means, because there's a lot of people that believe in socialism and they point, like we said, to those other countries and they're saying, oh, they haven't collapsed like Denmark and stuff. It's like, no, they're definitely using capitalism to survive. They're using free market capitalism to survive, and then using that money. The socialists, I've said, they know how to take money, but they don't know how to produce money. Whereas the people that are in the free market, they're the ones producing all the money that the socialists can use for their own welfare programs and stuff. But essentially, it's the freedom that we need to protect. And that's why we built this country the way it is now, or originally, because we want to protect the freedoms of the individual so that we can have a prosperous nation instead of having everything totally controlled by one group of people or even one person in a dictatorship, which is what socialism allows to happen. You're giving all the power to the government, and what happens is there's also powers above that I wanted to mention. International bankers, people that lend money to countries. These people take advantage of dictatorships, because if you can control a dictatorship, all you have to do is corrupt that one leader and you have control over the entire country, because everyone's given the power to the central government. That's what the problem with communism is, that it's used by these elite bankers to try to control the whole world, and that's why they want to establish communism here in this country, just like they've done in other countries, because it provides them a way of controlling everything versus the hard way, which is, trying to control a decentralized country like America, having to control every state and every county and thousands of different people that you have to control in order to actually control the whole thing. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I agree. But why do you think New Age Democrats have become democratic socialists? What do you think they honestly believe is the right and just truth behind the new wave of democratic socialism?
They're basically looking at it like that's their savior of their life. That's how they're going to be successful, is having the government take care of their problems. Free college, because they always have this excuse that it's their right. It's my right to have an education. It's my right to have health care. So then what they do is they justify in their minds, like they always mention, all these other countries do it. We're the only ones that don't do it. And so it seems like it's an injustice that we don't have it already. It's like, no, if you have free stuff, that means you have to pay for it. All the people, the free market's going to have to pay for it. And then they look at it as a way of getting power through the government, which they don't even control. So it's an illusion. They've been lied to. They're being told they're being empowered by giving their power away. That's not how it works in reality. Why do you think these Democrat socialists have been able to justify promoting socialism?
Well, I think they've been brainwashed. I don't know who in their right mind would think the government knows how to spend your money better than you do. I think the idea of global warming is fantasy. I think that Democrats, they play the global warming hand to keep their base scared.
Right.
And they want to give the message that the world is going to end if you do not fund our campaign, our ideas. We are going to save you.
Yeah.
The human civilization, the human race is going to end unless you vote Democrat. That is what I believe their overall message is.
Right,
and
exactly.
It did not work for Al Gore in 2000 when he campaigned on global warming against George W. Bush. And I do not believe it is going to work in 2020 with...
I thought the world was going to be flooded by now, right? Like 10 years ago.
It was supposed to be.
It's supposed to be totally flooded. Everything... No, in fact, there's even studies that parts of the polar caps are increasing.
They are.
Nice.
They are.
So, the idea that climate change, we're going to die all of a sudden... Dude, when I go outside, it's beautiful. I don't see an Armageddon about to kill me in 10 years.
Neither do I. Well, AOC said 12 years.
Or 12
and
years, yeah.
Where's our countdown for 12 years from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? She is a plethora, an encyclopedia of garbage and nonsense that spews out of this woman's mouth. How she was voted into the Congress, I have no idea.
It's emotional. They have an emotional attachment. It's not even about logic. It's just, this lady is going to save us. She's fighting for our rights because we're oppressed by the white conservative white supremacist. That's really what, because the other day she was saying, she literally said that cauliflower was a white supremacist crop. And it was just like the most insane stuff I've ever heard. But she's suggesting these things because then it makes people feel like everything is a racist battle. Certain plants are racist. Certain colors.
Race bait,
everything's race baiting and fear mongering. Because I've heard what Bernie Sanders says. Everything is about you're being oppressed. You know, the world's ending, and so like you said, we're going to save you. Instead of you saving yourself and not realizing that you're being lied to. No, it's about, no, you listen to us. We know better. We know what to do with your money. We're going to take care of this for you. It's like, why would you want to why would you want to feel like a baby that's always having to hold on to mommy? You know, why would you, even when you're an adult, you want to continue to suck on the government's tit for the rest of your life? You know what I mean?
Well, Republicans are the class of the working people. Democrats are the party of dependents.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. Because what about socialism promotes independence?
Well, I guess I should have said the Republicans are the party of the working class, and Democrats are the party of dependents. And it's the truth. They do. I can't get over AOC. Gosh, it's just a train wreck. But
I mean, yeah. What is it about the Democrats? Why are they so obsessed with depending on the government instead of depending on themselves?
Fear of self-responsibility and fear of commitment. Those are the first two things that pop off the top of my head. I know we went over millennial statistics a week and a half, 2 weeks ago maybe, and showed millennials are statistically the greatest failure of any generation in recent years. And I'm a little concerned for the incoming generations and the looks that socialism is getting, because it puts us at a rock and a hard place when now our country is divided into two parties that are polarizing, and we're in the middle of a cultural cold civil war. And I don't believe right now that there would be a second civil war, but apparently 33% of Americans do. I think the United States military is too powerful, despite only having, and do not mark me on these numbers, but 2 million people. The military might have 2 million members, but I think the United States military is too powerful to let anything happen. But worst comes to worst, we're going to be walking around in a country where members of opposing parties despise each other, and what kind of society is that to live in? So now we have to look to a unifying figure. I don't think Trump is a unifying figure. Trump is my guy. You know, I like him. I like a lot of his policies, and I'm likely to vote for him in 2020, if not 100% going to vote for him in 2020. But I do believe in the future we are going to need a unifying figure.
That's a good point. Now, I have to say, in my view, Trump is a very unifying figure, because that's the whole reason why they paint him as this dividing person. Because it's not him that's dividing people. It's the media that's dividing people by saying he's a racist when he's not. So even if you have the most unifying person on the planet, and they go up there into the presidential position, it's the media that brainwashes people and says that they're dividing people.
So that leads me to my next question. If they've demonized Trump, they've labeled President Trump to be something that he's not. He's a racist, bigot, xenophobic, homophobic,
anything
whichever
you
it
can
is.
imagine.
But with that being said, is there any conservative candidate that you honestly believe they would not demonize and slander and smear? I don't know.
Only if they're like a neocon that has like the interests of the globalists, and they're basically Democrats in disguise, then they would promote those people. Then they would. Because if it was a real person that promotes nationalism and individual freedoms, like Trump, then they're demonized as an extremist, radical, racist. Every time. It's going to be like that until people stop listening to the certain media, mainstream media organizations, and realizing that they're discredited, like CNN, New York Times. They're completely controlled. They're all their purpose there is to destroy Trump at this time, so that they can prevent unity from happening, because he has provided some of the most unifying things in this country, even economically, with jobs for black people, for Hispanics.
Record low unemployment.
Right, exactly.
My next statement is, no matter what side you're on, your life is better under Donald Trump's presidency than anyone else's. We have a record low unemployment. Since President Trump has been elected, we have over 12 million people off of food stamps. It's remarkable numbers. It's honestly amazing to me. And the left is still complaining. We have record high GDP, and the economy in the country's never been better. We have more people at work. We have so many open jobs in the country right now. We can't even fill them all.
Right. And how is socialism creating any of these jobs and opportunities?
Well, you have a democratic socialist in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who lost some 25,000 jobs already in New York.
Right.
When she got the Amazon company to not open a store there.
So how is socialism ever a solution to the problems in our society if they're always causing the problems? I mean, geez, like free college and free stuff. Dude, you realize how expensive college is going to be if it's free? Because free means you have a government monopoly over education completely, to the point where there's no other options. And then what you have is people that the government being able to charge ridiculous amounts of money, which colleges already are, but just imagine if it was a monopoly. The prices would be astronomical because of the fact that you don't have other choices. So socialism destroys competition, destroys the quality of the product or service being provided, because you don't have any incentive to compete against anybody. So you can charge out the roof. And then what's going to be left? A bunch of people that are poor and strapped and looking for rotten tomatoes in the garbage for food.
It almost makes me think that there are too many intelligent people in this country for us to fail. And socialism, when you look at the numbers never add up. And I know we've touched on this before, but they don't. Even the idea of free healthcare for all would absolutely destroy the United States economy. The numbers aren't there. And why are the numbers this bad? Because the United States economy is not set up to support socialism. You look at the idea of free college, free education. The United States economy is not set up to support these policies.
Right. I mean, socialism always fails because the monopolies, basically need your money for them to survive. Their socialist programs are run off of your money, regardless if they call it free or not. And eventually people run out of money. And if you're trying to take money from people and controlling products and services, eventually people starve to death, because then the prices skyrocket. No one can afford it, but you still have to pay for it. And it's like these mandatory regulations instead of having a free market. And like you were saying with healthcare, it goes to this thing where the socialists think, oh, everything is a right. So they can make up all these rights. Well, what's the next thing they're going to call a right? Eating food is going to be a right. And then they're going to say that's going to be an excuse for the government to come in and say, we're going to take care of food, and it's a right. You have the right to eat food. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, because it feels good. It's like, yeah, I have a right to eat. And then the government's going to take care of all the food. Well, the food's going to go skyrocket in prices because now you don't have choices. Government's taking care of everything. And then the quality of food goes down. Look at Venezuela. There's people standing in line, long lines, block after block after block, for their ration that they're getting, their right to food from the government, and so they're starving to death. It's just insane.
Well, you look at the United States, Soviet Russia, the USSR, Joseph Stalin, he murdered upwards of 9 million of his own people because he couldn't feed them. Right. And so you look at the United States, and worst comes to worst. What do you think the American people are going to do when you tell them there's no more Social Security? So socialism, what they say is they're going to overtax the wealthy and redistribute from the top down. But what they don't understand is the wealthy have the money to put their house on the market, pack up, and move to a country that is not overtaxing them. So now where are you going to get that money from? The middle class. Now the middle class is overtaxed. There is no more middle class. Now we're all lower class. Now we're all in poverty. And what do you think is going to happen if the Americans are told, you have no more Social Security, there's going to be a revolt. And I don't want to see my country, go down that path, because it only ends
It's also this
negatively.
illusion. Yeah, it's this also, you mentioned, you brought up a good point with these wealthy people. And obviously I don't want us to get into a civil war and things, but hey, that's what socialism is going to bring upon us. But if we stop it now, it's going to be fine. But we have to inform people what happens when socialism comes in. But with the wealthy people, they always say it's the 1% that's oppressing them, and that it's the poor people's movement. Socialism is the poor people's movement. There's another thing people don't talk about. What about the ultra-rich, multi-billionaire international bankers, Rockefellers, the J.P. Morgans of the world? They know how to be tax exempt. I mean, there's even records of them paying almost no taxes. And it's like, those are the people benefiting from socialism, because everyone else is getting taxed out their ass, and they can't build a business, they can't do anything, while they're getting tax exempt because they control a lot of these policies.
They redistribute their money to offshore accounts, but I still don't believe that they owe me anything. I want to earn my own income. I pride myself in hard work and hard labor.
So the 1% people that are actually being taxed, is actually just the average millionaire that's $400,000 and above is 1%. And so the real people that they actually should be against are these international banking monopolies that are trying to run the world. They use socialism because it makes the average millionaire that's producing jobs to actually have to leave, and then obviously the middle class gets taxed, and it creates chaos. But they rule in the end because they're the ones that are tax exempt, and they're making all the money they can without having to fall into the socialist trap. So they're just using socialism as a way to enslave people. All the rest of the people that are not in the club, And that's what I was reading in this book I'm reading right now. So it's like learning how socialism is a tool to control the masses.
It's funny to me that the message of Democrats is the world is ending, you're going to die, give us all your money, we'll save you.
Yeah, that's how they're mentally controlling people, because they're afraid. They're like, because in their world it's real. It's, climate change is gonna kill me, and so it's like, how do I solve this? It's like, because what they do is they provide a problem, they create a problem so that they can say, a manufactured problem, so that they can come in and say, we have the solution, we're the heroes, even though they're the ones creating the problem.
They manufactured the entire crisis to begin with.
And when you think about the word climate change, it's like, dude, climate is changing. It's called summer, it's called winter. It's like you're worried about something that naturally happens, and they're saying it's the world is the atmosphere is disappearing, and the global warming, and the oceans are going to melt, and we're all going to die. Well, they've been saying that for so long, and it hasn't happened.
I'm not convinced. I've looked at enough climate change articles to decide for myself. I'm not convinced, and I'm not alarmed.
Yeah, I mean, there's times in history, like 10,000 years ago, it was way hotter. It was way, way hotter than this, and everything was fine.
That and the counter argument is we're still coming out of an ice age. We were in an ice age,
right?
Tens of thousands of years ago. So it would make sense for the world to still be warming. Back in the age of dinosaurs, I think the average temperature was 120 to 134 degrees outside.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. Yeah, you're right. We're in a cooling stage. It's like the opposite of what they've been saying. And then also at the same time, the idea that carbon dioxide is somehow going to kill the planet, when it's like, no, when carbon dioxide increases, it actually allows plants to grow faster. That's why greenhouses inject more carbon dioxide to make the plants grow faster, because it's good. It's not bad. That's what they've been saying. It's just insane.
I'm not competent enough to comment on horticulture.
You can look it up in 2 seconds. Online, you'll see it, what I'm talking about. The greenhouses inject more carbon dioxide in order to make the plants grow. And then here's the socialist saying carbon dioxide is killing the planet. No, when you get rid of it is when you kill the planet. It's hilarious how their world is inverted. It's just backwards. It's white is black, black is white, and it's just everything's backwards. And that's what socialism is. It's just total backwards idea. I'm going to be saved by the government, and then every single time they get massacred. It's like, come on.
Venezuela is a catastrophe, to say the least.
Yeah, total catastrophe. People are starving to death by the thousands. Even the military is probably going to be against the government soon because they're being starving to death. I mean,
well, the military has started to divide already.
Yeah, exactly. They're running over people. Like, when is it going to be like a realization for these leftists that are realizing, like, look, you're supporting something that's been causing deaths for the last 100 years. It's been causing over 100 million deaths. Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, which was socialists, communist Chinese, which is what communism, what socialism becomes. So I mean, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. It's just I want people to realize how important it is to have limited government, because freedom is what creates success. Freedom is what creates wealth, and then you can provide everything you need for everyone that can survive off of it. Because you don't have to have the government controlling everything you do in your life. It's just this is the most terrible solution. Because a dictator can be corrupted, and then they can kill you if they want.
Well, the government's not a cure-all. Save yourself.
And so we'll see you in the next one. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Patriot Torch episode.